Hi, this video is to show my review of the Kiam 3400p petrol pressure washer. It does also come in diesel, but this is the petrol version. Right, just to show you, in a nutshell, the pump, power source, in this case the engine, and also you get with it your wheels, your feet, you get a lance, high pressure hose, and you also get a low pressure suction hose as well. Right, let's start off with the pump. Now you may notice, that's not the original pump. This one is. This is the 3400 psi 15 litres per minute as quoted on their website with the German seals, the XXX. Now the reason it's not on my machine is because I've had no end of problems with it. Mainly because I couldn't get it to suck water out of a tank. Now the tank I use on my day-to-day work is a gravity fed one, and I found the only way I get it to suck water out is when the trigger on my lance was closed to allow the water to flow through, and even then it was only producing 5 litres a minute. As soon as you let go of the trigger, the water flow stops. The pump made an absolute racket, real loud grinding sound. Now I'm not quite sure why that is, but it didn't work. Made me look at getting a new one. It could have been the unloader, it could have been the pump itself, it might be a bit of wear and tear, it might be a dodgy model. There's all sorts of reasons behind that, but a little bit frustrating. So I went out and purchased another one. This one's an Interpump 63 series with its own unloader valve. Now with this one, I found when you pull the trigger on the lance, the kickback was a lot greater than this one, which suggests to me that this one doesn't produce 3400 psi, because this pump is only a 3000 psi pump, yet the kickback seems a lot more. Now the camera won't really do it credit, but the quality of the build of the Interpump seems a lot sturdier and a lot more durable than this one. Right, but that's the pump anyway, so we'll move on to the wheels. Now again, these aren't the original wheels. This one is. Now I know it's gone a little bit rustic, it's been off my machine. It actually broke off and fell off within 6 months of purchasing the machine, so it was still under warranty. Now what had happened was, as the machine's working away and moving, because it's vibrating from the shocks from the engine, and it was rattling and rattling and rattling, and eventually it just kind of popped out because the weld that's around the side of it to secure this to the wheel itself just failed and broke off. So I was walking it down someone's drive and it decided to fall over. Now the problem I had with this is this bore size. It's 16mm, which is a really strange measurement for the UK, but again this is a Chinese pressure washer, it's Chinese built, it's imported to the UK and then rebranded as Kiam. So trying to find another wheel with the same bore was real difficult. Now the UK standard is 19mm, or they're about 3/4 of an inch, so about 19mm. Now I had so much trouble trying to find a wheel with the 16mm. I mean, I had no end of searching on the internet, even to the point where I was thinking about replacing the axles, buying new axles and having them installed, engineered, or even buying a trolley at a massive expense just for the sake of a wheel, because I didn't want it to fail on me again. But luckily it didn't come to that. I managed to find one on the internet, and then I went to an engineering company who then built me this, or cut this down to size, this spacer. And what this does is it just takes the movement out of the wheel and just stops it from just moving side to side. Now I couldn't get a 19mm wheel on it, because obviously 3mm is quite a big difference when you want a nice snug fit. But it was sorted, it's fixed. And now moving on to the engine. The engine is 14 horsepower, and it comes, let's just show you, you've got your clutch, you've got your fuel switch, you've got your accelerator here for your throttle, which sometimes is a little bit sharp, and if you catch it wrong you can graze your knuckles, but that's not a big problem. You've got your coil start, as it is coil start, it's not a switch or a key start, and then you've got your power switch as well. Now this will hold, I believe, about 6.5 litres of petrol, but I only fill it up about 5 litres at a time. Now 5 litres will give me about 3.5 hours, give or take a little bit, of working time. Now 3.5 hours, you can get a lot done in that kind of time. The rest of your time spent cleaning up after yourself, or rinsing down, or building your machine, setting it up, or taking out your van. So I can't really fault the engine. When it goes pop, I will probably replace it with something of a little bit sturdier build, but to be fair, I can't knock the engine, it's doing well. Serve me proud, and replacements are expensive. Right, I've just taken now to the lance, which is over here, and I do apologise about the light. It does get a bit dark down this bit. Now you may notice that it's in two parts. Just get this bit, that's the end, and then the handle. Now the reason it's in two parts is because it broke. What happened was, in this part of the lance, the handle part, it's still screwed in, it's still threaded in. It's the metal snapped outside the fitting. And what happened there was, I was working on a job, and the machine was a little bit away from my working area. Now normally when you fire the machine up, you keep the trigger pulled, keep the water flow going, engine will start up. Now on this job, I'll stop-start all day. So the engine was quite warm, and when I fired up at one point, I didn't press the trigger, I didn't pull the trigger. So as soon as the engine fired up, it just went bang, and I mean bang, and it blew it in half. So I had to go and find another one. So that was that. I had to go find a replacement, a bit of a delay. Now I know things break through wear and tear, but I expected more than a year out of it, which is what I got out of this. So I expected a better lifespan out of that. Now onto the high pressure hose. You get the black hose with it, 10 metres of hydraulic hose, with these MIDI connectors at, I believe, with 14mm in there, 14mm bore. Now these are getting a bit stiff, but for 2 years, which is how long I've loosely used the word owned the machine. It's not in its original format, but I've owned it for that long. Now these probably need a bit of WD-40, or it may be even replacing. They've had a good innings. Now the black hose is there. Also underneath, I bought this separate, it's a blue hose. Now the reason I bought that is because I use a boiler, a hot box, for a lot of my work. Now the hose you get with it, the black hose, is only temperature rated at 60 degrees Celsius, whereas the blue one is 155 degrees. So I do favour the blue, even in my day-to-day work, pressure washing and driveway cleaning. Now you may notice that they've actually fastened together. Now the reason for this is because on big jobs, to save constantly moving my machine around, I'll just put them together. I've got an engineering connector, female to female, and I'll just connect them together. It'll give me about 25 metres of hose then. So I like that. Saves a bit of time. Now this is 3/4 inch, the blue hose. Now the black hose is a little bit less, it's a little bit smaller. It's got its advantages though, it's good side. The black hose is a lot easier to move around. Sometimes the blue hose, quite bulky, quite heavy. If it gets underlapped between itself, it can be real heavy to pull. The black hose doesn't, it's quite light, quite nice to work with. Right, moving back then. Moving back to the washer. I just want to talk a little bit about the rubber feet, which are just down here, because I've actually had a few problems with these. Now actually the rubber the feet, not the wheels, the feet even, they fell off. Just probably because the machine might have been dragged along the ground, and there's a plate just inside, just between there, which the rubber is kind of moulded round. Now when it fell off, it just fell apart, and the rubber came separate. So what I ended up doing there was putting the bolt through from the bottom, or putting a fresh bolt through the bottom to the top. So that was a little bit frustrating, but not very much you can do. Now moving on from there, I just want to talk a little bit about the low pressure suction hose. It is reinforced, but the reason I don't have it to show is because I binned it. Now for me, 1/2 inch doesn't have the capacity to supply the water the pump needs. I replaced it since with a 3/4 inch, and if you can get an inch that'd be even better, but nothing wrong with a 3/4. Now 1/2 inch may have been a contributing factor to the problems I've had with the pump, but I wouldn't say entirely the reason. So 3/4 or above, it's fantastic. Right, lastly the nozzles. Although they're not all here on my machine, you get with it the red pencil nozzle, the yellow 15 degrees, green 25, the white 40, and then the black low pressure chemical applicator. I prefer the quick release nozzles, just personal preference. If you want the screwed in ones, then that's fine as well, but my personal preference is them. Now again, can't knock them, serve me well, bit of wear and tear, a few breaks, but just on the plastic, still work fine, but after the amount of time I've had it and the use it's done, I can't really complain. Right, so finally to conclude then, if I had my time again, I've got to be honest, I wouldn't buy this machine. I can't stress enough the stress it's caused from trying to find replacements, the downtime, the not knowing when you're going to get onto a job. It's not really not worth the hassle. You want something like engine-wise, Honda GX390, never go wrong with a Honda, and also something along the lines of Interpump or an A&R pump. Again, you want something that's sturdy, that costs a few more pennies, but you want something that's going to work day in, day out with you. You don't want downtime, because downtime means you don't earn the money. So for me, I personally wouldn't. There's a lot better out there. I know you could be enticed to buy a Kiam because they are aimed at the new to the pressure washing market, but don't be enticed by the price. You really want quality. And finally, the customer service at Kiam. Sales side I thought were really good, informative, told you everything you wanted to know, but the technical side, not very good at all. When I had problems with it, called back about the wheel, for example, it was still under warranty. The engineer was conveniently on holiday, didn't ring me back, and every time I tried to contact him when he was back after his week, I was greeted by somebody else who said that he would call me back, because he's really busy, but will call me back shortly. And still to this day, I haven't heard back from them. So, as I said, I would recommend better, but that's just my opinion, that's my review. Thank you.